They stood in neat rows beneath the blistering sun boots, dug into gravel, uniforms stiff, breath steady in the early dawn. It was day one at Fort Titan, one of the toughest military bases in America. Sweat, nerves, and arrogance filled the air like static. Among the fresh recruits stood a woman named Raina Wells, tall, dark-skinned, determined. Her father once told her she carried storms behind her eyes, quiet, but powerful when unleashed. Yet to the men standing beside her, she was just a woman. Worse, a black woman in a place they believed she didn't belong. "Try not to break a nail, sweetheart," one private snickered. Another whispered just loud enough, "She won't last a week." Bet her hair products weigh more than her backpack. Laughter rippled through the line like a wave. Raina didn't flinch. She kept her stare locked forward, jaw still, pulse slow. She had heard worse. The world had taught her early that people preferred limits, especially on someone like her. Then the colonel stepped out. Colonel Isaac Hardin. 25 years of battlefield scars and leadership, eyes sharp like hawk talons. The yard fell silent. His voice carried like thunder. "You think war cares about your jokes? About your ego? Out there, skill is the only language that matters." No one moved. No one breathed. Drill began. Running. Firing range. Combat drills. Classroom strategy. Others groaned and cursed. Raina held steady like iron welded by fire. But at night, when bunks creaked and snores filled the barracks, she lay awake replaying every sneer, every laugh, every moment someone pretended she didn't exist. She was always first to wake, last to stop. But ridicule followed her like shadow. During target practice, a recruit nudged his friend and said, "She shoots like she's holding a grocery list, not a rifle." Raina ignored him. Drew breath, fired, bulls, eye again. Silence finally replaced laughter briefly. But insecurity is stubborn. It finds cracks in armor. "My night," Raina whispered to herself. "Why am I here? Why do I still fight for people who don't want me beside them?" Her answer came with the sunrise. Obstacle course. The hardest on the base. The kind that breaks bones and warps confidence. Ropes slashed palms. Walls towered like giants. Mud swallowed boots. Many fell. Some quit. Raina did not. Halfway through, someone shoved her accidentally. She hit the ground hard, shoulder screaming in pain. The men behind her laughed again, cruel, careless, but she rose. Every muscle burned, sweat blurred her sight. Still she climbed, pushed, clawed forward. Her uniform tore, her knees bloodied. Her breathing sounded like war drums inside her skull. Yet she finished, dead last. No, fourth, ahead of most men who mocked her. Colonel Hardin watched her cross the line. Flicker of approval glinted in his eyes, but he said nothing. Not yet. It's a field test. 2 weeks later came night recon training. Recruits received headlamps, radios, and mapsec except Raina. The supply sergeant looked up and shrugged. "We're short one kit. Guess someone sits out." Almost everyone smirked, expecting her to be cut. Colonel Hardin stepped forward. "No," she goes. He handed her a simple blade. "That's all you get." Murmurs broke across the ranks. A few whispered, "She's done for. Better say goodbye." Raina said nothing. She just nodded. The forest swallowed them, thick as ink. Every footstep cracked like betrayal. Coyotes howled across the hills. A fear curled in stomachs like smoke. One by one, radios failed. Batteries died. Maps soaked through with fog. Recruits stumbled off, course lost, panicked, arguing. But Raina moved like she was born in darkness, silent, controlled, focused. She mapped landmarks in her mind, felt wind direction, listened to branches. Hours later, while dozens still wandered in confusion, she returned first. Mud splattered her face, leaves tangled in her hair, but her eyes blazed like coals. Hardin stepped closer, noticing something no one else had. Across Raina's cheek was a thin curved scar, almost snake-like, revealed only when moonlight hit just right. He froze. That mark. He breathed, voice tight with shock. "You were trained before, weren't you?" Raina hesitated. Then she spoke quiet, controlled. "My grandmother was a survival instructor in Louisiana swamps. She called me her Black Viper because..." I strike only when necessary. The colonel turned to the stunned recruits, especially those who laughed. You call her weak. You call her nothing. But that he pointed to her scar, her stance, her fire. That is a black viper mark, rare, deadly, elite. No one laughed this time. Respect does not grow instantly. A doubt began to crack. Still, one final challenge remained, the red flag simulation. A full-scale tactical mission, across 40 miles of rough terrain, 0 sleep, coded objectives, and time against them. Teams were chosen. Reyna's group groaned when she was assigned to them. We're losing, someone muttered. Then let me lead, they scoffed. But by our 6 water gone, Moraldadrina navigated them through terrain the others refused to enter. By our 12 ambush teams collapsed Strana's strategy slipped them behind enemy lines unseen. At our 18, exhausted, broken, they finally reached the extraction zone. First team to finish. Colonel Hardin greeted them with a slow, proud nod. You followed her? He asked her team. They swallowed pride. Yes, sir. He turned to Reyna. You didn't ask for respect. You earned it. Graduation morning. Flags snapped in wind. Families cheered. Cameras flashed. Recruits stood tall in newly pressed uniforms. But all eyes turned when Colonel Hardin stepped to the microphone. One among you walked in alone, underestimated, targeted with ridicule. He scanned the crowd. She never threw a punch, never shouted back. She let skill speak in her place. He motioned to Reyna to step forward. For the first time since training began, she looked nervous. Hardin removed a velvet case. Inside lay a silver insignia shaped like a coiled viper. This, he said, voice deep as thunder, is the Black Viper Commendation, reserved only for those who lead without power, win without cruelty, and rise even when others want them broken. He pinned it to her chest. Applause rolled like a tidal wave. The same men who once laughed now stood and saluted. Reyna Wells lifted her chin, shoulders square, storm eyes steady. She had not come for approval, but she had gained it anyway. Years later, recruits whispered her name with awe, not derision. Captain Reyna, Viper Wells, instructor, strategist, leader. When a new class arrived filled with doubts, judgments, and careless jokes, she stood where she once trembled, and the first thing she told them was, never underestimate the one you think is nobody.